When you're in the payment processing space, this is the truth about feeding wild animals. Now, in the beginning, especially during the honeymoon stage, many of us have very high emotions, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're excited. But we trust people blindly. Sometimes we give them too much, and we leave too much trust, that is, and we leave our businesses open to attack. So we forget that most people are focused on one thing, and that is how much they can benefit, how much they can eat. And unfortunately, some people act no different than animals, especially when it comes to money. You have to be very careful of the animals you feed, because you cannot predict what will happen next once there's no more food left. So let's get into it, right? In payments, like, we had a business partner. We started at the very bottom, right? And he's my ex-business partner now. We built the business from the ground up to doing billions of dollars of sales every single year. And then one day he woke up and decided that he wanted all of it, right? He took all the money, he took the staff, and any sales reps that supported him in what he was doing. As long as they were getting paid, whether they be a staff member, whether they be salespeople, they were with the program, right? And so all of them were with him. They moved money, assets, and he moved pretty much everything to his new companies, and left me with millions of dollars in legal fees. And so I make these videos to share the blind spots so that you don't have to go through what I went through. And I want to show you how you can rebuild to be better and stronger than before. Today, you see a lot of people feeding wild animals. Like, some people literally will stick their hand in a fence and try to feed a lion. Some people literally have alligators that are freaking 20 feet long. I don't know how much they weigh, but they look like they weigh a ton. And they will feed this alligator with their hand, right? Or from their hand, not with their hand, right? Hopefully that's not the case. These are all good deeds that don't go unnoticed. Like, everybody's wooed and wild about how you can go to these wild freaking animals and not be eaten alive by them. Like, how can you go to these wild animals and feed them and not see you as a part of the food? And so everyone is happy when that's happening. You know, you're feeding the wild animals. It shows you're close to nature. The animal is happy. You're happy. The people are watching are happy. And as humans, it makes us feel good when we are able to do something that make others feel good, right? I know I feel that way as well. When I'm able to help someone out, it gives me like the greatest sense of joy. And I think the same thing for many other people. Now, domesticated animals are known to be man's best friend, right? You see people who literally, I saw a guy the other day, he had a backpack on, and it was something in the back. I thought it was his son or his daughter. It was a freaking dog. I was like, man, it's like the dog was sticking out almost like you would your child. And I walked by and I see a freaking dog in the stroller. I'm like, whoa. Like, the dog has like a head, what I call it, a bonnet on, and yeah, the wife is next to him. I guess that's the dog's mom or whatever. And you see people taking pictures with their dog. It's like, some people consider that a dog is a man's best friend. When you have a dog in your family that you consider your best friend, you will never, ever stop feeding them, right? You feel like it's your responsibility. And that dog feels very comfortable with you. Like, you become their master because they know where their next meal is coming from, almost like a child and his mother, right? You know, especially when they're nursing. The child knows that mom is the source of food, and it creates this seemingly unbreakable bond. And the same thing with dogs. You know, when you're feeding your dog knows you are the person that's taking care of them. Now, if they were in the wild by themselves, they would get it how they get it. But in this case, you are taking care of them. So they know where the next meal is coming from. You know, the dog is like happy, always wagging his tail, you know, licking the family up and everything like that, right? And you see this a lot. And, you know, they protect the children, like they're really, really close to the family. So now let's talk about human and animal behavior and how this all relates, especially in the financial and payment processing space. First, what are the differences between animals and human? So let's name the 5 senses that humans have. And it's sight, right? It's touch, it's smell, right, with the nose, it's hearing with our ears, and it's taste with our tongue, right? Now, let's talk about what are the 5 senses that animals have. Sight, touch, smell, hearing, and taste. Sometimes their senses are like super magnified, right? They can see in the dark, they can hear like, I don't know, almost a mile away. They have like extra senses, right? And so animals and humans both have 5 senses. So what really separates us, right? And are animals acting like humans, or are humans acting like animals, right? since we all have 5 senses. Unfortunately, sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference, especially when it comes to resources. Animals hunt, kill, and eat when they are hungry. Animals also hunt, kill, and eat when they are not hungry, right? That's just what they do. That's their nature. That's what they're made up of. And so do humans, right? They hunt and kill when they are hungry. Also, humans, some of them, hunt and kill even when they are not hungry. Some people consider it a sport. And so humans do these same things, but we call them greedy when they do it. And with this in mind, you have to operate your business accordingly, because when you have other people around, right, and they could be staff, they could be external, they could be doing very well in their companies. Your staff members could be making more than enough money, or enough money to live a comfortable life. The competition could be doing the same thing, but because of this, what we call greed factor, some people have to go out and get more. They can't cannibalize and eat off of everything that they have internally, so they have to go out and get it, which means take away from you. And this is why some people behave totally different and almost on the level of an animal when they're vying or going for resources, right? And so there was a guy who built their business with his friend, right? The emotions were high, the honeymoon stage, everything was good. And one of them became what we would call excessively greedy. Well, he was already fat, let's say, right? And he ate so much that it became even bigger and operated solely on the 5 senses. And I'm not saying this to be like mean or anything like that. I'm talking so that you can understand what we mean. You see people who are already overweight, and we're not knocking people who are overweight, and then they continue to eat more, making themselves more overweight, bringing in or hunting or killing. When you say hunting could be going to the grocery store today for us, getting more and more food, even though they already have more than enough. And so in business, people do the same thing, where they have enough, but they want more, so they take it from this person and that person and this person until they become fat, and they're operating only on the 5 senses. And so the greedy partner and his animal-like friends, right? Because sometimes animals hang in packs. You see the lions, they're considered one of the best hunters out there, and they hunt in packs. You see the same, for the most part, you see the same thing with hyenas. They all hunt in packs. And so the greedy partner and his animal friends begin plotting to take everything by any means necessary. Almost like when hyenas plot to steal their food, they circle around you, they watch you, and they're really sneaky. Some will come from behind you, another one will come from in front of you, another one will come from the side, right? Another one will come from the other side. And so what's happening here? Why are humans acting like animals, or is it the vice versa? So they became obsessed with stealing the food. Like the scenes in a movie, or an inmate rather, takes another inmate's food, like this animal-like kind of environment. And it's not that, the inmate is starving, it's greed, it's ego, it's control, and it's ignorance. The one thing that humans do, you would think they have the ability to do different than the animals, is think. But in some cases, we think, but we think in a way almost like on the level of an animal, because we're operating only from those 5 senses, right? Here's where the line blurs between animals and human behavior. One partner began to screw the other over in every way possible, including through attorneys whom use legal strategies. You can go and find any attorney, just about any attorney today, as long as you pay them, and they'll take the case on, because they're thinking about how much money they can make, and you could be guilty or innocent. They're taking the case, right? And so he began to use this particular attorney in order to help him get what he wanted. And greedy people don't just stop at one, right? They screw everyone in their path to get what they want. And so you got the attorney who knows that this particular person is not doing something that's applicable, but they're going to protect him. Then you got the guy who's hiring the attorney, or the gal who's hiring the attorney, who knows that they're not doing it, but they're going to go out and get that type of attorney to help them. Then you have other parties who are all vying and fighting for resources. So it's really what they call like the rat race, right? Or just animals fighting amongst each other. And I guess, the best animal wins, so to speak. And so the journey began between the business partners. One of the partners began to sense what was happening, and so he decided to go out and help as many of the other people as possible from having their resources taken from them or being taken advantage of. She began to use her own resources to help their clients and staff who were being taken advantage of, even helping the people on the team that was led by the animal like people. And so those following her guidance, they were successful and they recovered what the animals were taking. Those people being fed were very happy, right? Because remember, we spoke about you feeding, or humans rather, feeding their dog, right? Which is they become their best friend, and the dog is super happy. And so in this case, the people were happy. They were being fed, like, yeah, you're helping us get our resources. And it makes sense. And here's the thing, the people who she was helping, the lady who was helping the people get their resources, she forgot one thing. She forgot that some people operate on the level of an animal where they're only operating with their 5 senses, right? And so she fed them, giving all the resources in her reach. Like I said, they were like happy little dogs. Once there was nothing left to feed them, they began trying to eat her. And she didn't understand how animals operate. And it was like they never even saw that she fed them. And once hunger kicks in to an animal, everyone and anyone becomes a meal. They say a dog is a man's best friend. And as nice as they can be, dogs are descendants of wolves. And if there is no food around, a dog will eat whatever flesh is around, even the corpse of its own master. Some dogs have been known to eat their master's toes when the master was drunk. Some dogs to this present day eat or bite and attack the children who they grew up with. Just all of a sudden the dog just snaps because it's an animal. This is something really interesting and important to understand as you deal with people in the financial and payment space who also act like animals. So we were talking about a dog, which can be domesticated, yet still very unpredictable. Imagine a lion whom you've been feeding every day for 5 years. Using common sense, ask yourself, if it got hungry enough, would it eat you? Think about that. And some animals will kill you and store you as food for when they do get hungry. Alligators do that. Remember, animals operate only on their 5 senses. It's in animals, and animals do what their senses lead them to. So what you need to know is some humans operate only on their 5 senses. Sometimes it's best not to even feed these animals anything, period. This is why around lakes in Florida, you can get arrested for feeding alligators because they get used to it. And if nothing is available to feed them, like they're in the lake and they normally feed from the lake, but if there's nothing around at the present moment and you've been feeding them, if nothing is available, when they see you, you become the food and they will attack you. Some of them even go out seeking the food, which is not in the lake anymore. They actually go on shore and begin to attack people. This is why, again, you're not allowed to feed alligators in lakes. I know there's plenty of subdivisions where if you're seen feeding gators, they will call the police on you. And we all want to do the best thing and feed hungry animals. You must know going in, this animal may attack you one day when it's not fed enough. This is how greedy people act when they get hungry. They use everything possible to get fed and fed, and in many cases overstuff themselves. Robbery, theft, lies, schemes, violence, wars, lawyers, and legal methods are the tools. All of their actions in their mind will justify whatever it is they do. This is the mental psychotic side of humans that we must understand in the game of business. Just like with animals, you can't predict when a freaking lion is going to attack you. You don't know. You can't predict sometimes even when a dog attacks you. Oftentimes strangers go to dogs and they pet them and then the dog just bites them. You can't predict that. Just like you cannot predict certain human behavior as well, because again, they're operating only on their 5 senses. I'm going to say those 5 senses again, which are sight, touch, hearing, smell, and taste. So consult with your attorney, an ethical attorney, hopefully, that you can find, and your business team on strategy to protect yourself, right? Sometimes attorneys have one way of doing business, which is based upon billable hours. And then you have business strategists who do things that are not based upon just billable hours, but are based upon a long-term effect. So be extremely cautious what animals you decide to feed and to go in business with. Because when you're in business and you have partners, you're essentially feeding one another. And when some animals get hungry, they attack. In some cases, some attack even when they are fat. So you got to keep that in mind. And when there's nothing left to eat, you are food or discarded. If you think this was helpful, hit the like button. If you have questions or ideas that can help others, share in the comments. If you want more, hit the subscribe button. I'm out.